Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. Panginoon, minsan mo nang hinayaang bumaha sa daigdig. Lumikha ng arko ang iyong hinirang upang mailigtas ang magtataguyod ng iyong salita at kabutihan. Isinalba mo ang sangkatauhan upang magsimula muli. Binigyan mo ng pag-asa at pagkakataon ang tao. Hinugasan mo ang mundo at tinangay ang kasalanan nito. Ang bahang iyon ay pinagkaloob mo rin sa Pilipinas. Hindi para pasakitan ng Pilipino, kundi para tumambad ang katotohanan. Panginoon, gawin mo pong malaking bangka ang Senado. Arko ng bawat Pilipino. Isang bangkang may matibay na pundasyon at tiyak na direksyon. Katapatan sa bayan at mabilis na pagkilos sa katarungan. Hindi makakausad ang bansa kundi tatapusin ang mga pagdinig kahit may ayaw marinig. Ikulong na kasi ang mga dapat ikulong dahil ito lamang ang papawi sa galit ng taong bayan. Pagtibayin niyo po ang demokrasya at hayaang magsalita ang bawat mamayan, bawat senador. Dahil ang kapangyarihang bigay ninyo at ng bayan ay pantay-pantay at walang mas nakakataas. Bigyan niyo po ng pag-unawa ang aming samahan na kung mabilis matapos ang bangungot ng flood control ay mas mabilis namin masosolusyonan ang malalim na kaya ng sinuman. Kuryente, kawalan ng trabaho ng iba't ibang mamayan. At Panginoon, ang kahit anong bangka ay lulubog kung kami mismo ang bubutas nito. Naway pangalagaan namin ang isa't isa. Bilang isang buong institusyon, proteksyonan at hindi pagkanulo. Bigyan ng pagkakataon at huwag busalan. Magkakaiba man ang layag, ay iisa lamang ang direksyon ng pagsagwan. Na mapunta ang bayan sa inyong mapagpalang gabay. Hinihiling po namin ito alang-alang sa mga Pilipinong nag-alay ng buhay sa bawat kalamidad at sa sigalot na lumiliyab na muli sa Mindanao. Naway, maisapuso naming mga senador na para sa kanila ang bawat desisyon at aksyon na aming gagawin. Kaawaan sana tayo ng Panginoon. Amen.
The Secretary will please call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senator Aquino, Senator Cayetano Alan, Senator Cayetano Pia, Senator De La Rosa, Senator Ejercito, Senator Escudero, Senator Estrada, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go, Senator Ontiveros, Senator Lacson, Senator Lapid, Senator Legarda, Senator Marcoleta, Senator Marcos, Senator Padilla, Senator Pangilinan, Senator Tulfo Erwin, Senator Tulfo Rafi, Senator Villanueva, Senator Villar Camille, Senator Villar Mark, Senator Zubiri. The Senate President is present.
With 21 senators present, the chair declares, it's 22. With 22 senators present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal of the 37th session, Monday, January 26, and consider the same as approved. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, the journal is approved.
Mr. President, I move to proceed with the reference of business.
Secretary will proceed with the reference of business.
Resolutions. Resolution 207, resolution honoring mother during the deadly Hong Kong fire and for exemplifying the noble character and sacrifice of Filipino overseas workers by Senator Lapid.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
208, resolution honoring the life and legacy of Rosa Rosal, celebrated Filipina actress and humanitarian, and expressing the profound condolences of the Senate of the Philippines to her family and loved ones by Senator Lapid.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
209, Resolution directing the Committee on Justice to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation to review and recommend revisions to the 2015 Omnibus Rules of Procedure of the Bureau of Immigration, particularly on summary deportation orders, in light of the reported rise of high-profile illegal immigrants in the Philippines and for other purposes by Senator Tulfo R.
Referred to the Committee on Justice and Human Rights.
210, resolution commending and congratulating the Philippine contingent to the 33rd Southeast Asian Games in Thailand for ably representing the country and for winning 50 gold, 73 silver, and 154 bronze medals by Senator Estrada.
To the Committee on Rules.
211, commending and congratulating Team Philippines and the members of the Philippine delegation who have competed and won medals, placing the country as the 6th overall champion in the 33rd edition of the Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
212, commending and congratulating Mazel Paris Aligado and Jericho Francisco Jr. for winning gold medals in extreme skateboarding at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
213, commending and congratulating the Philippine men's and women's softball teams for winning gold medals at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
Committee on Rules.
214, commending and congratulating the Philippine women's swimming team for bringing home the gold medal in the women's 4x100 meters freestyle relay event at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
215, commending and congratulating Justine Macario and Takiana Mangin for their gold medal victories in Taekwondo at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
216, commending and congratulating Filipina tennis ace Alexandra Alex Ayala for capturing the gold medal in women's tennis singles at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
217, commending and congratulating the Philippine triathlon team for sweeping all 3 gold medals in the women's, men's, and mixed relay events at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
218, commending and congratulating the Elrin Ando for winning the gold medal in women's 63-kilogram weightlifting event at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
219, commending and congratulating Denver John Castillo for bringing home the gold medal in the men's under-19 windsurfing event at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
220, commending and congratulating Gabriel Thomas Dinet for capturing the gold medal in the men's wrestling event at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
221, and congratulating Agatha Wong and Jones in so far winning gold medals in Wushu at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
222, commending and congratulating the Philippines men's baseball team for winning the gold medal at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
223, commending and congratulating the Philippine men's and women's Gilas basketball team for winning the gold medals at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
224, commending and congratulating the Philippine women's beach volleyball team, Alas Pilipinas, for winning the country's first ever gold medal in women's beach volleyball at the Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
225, commending and congratulating the Philippine men's national bowling team for capturing the gold medal in the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
226, commending and congratulating Yumir Marshall for capturing the gold medal in the men's 80-kilogram boxing event at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
227, commending and congratulating Filipino athletes John Cabang Tolentino, Joquet de los Santos, Hossein Loraliana, Naomi Cesar, and EJ Obiana for bagging the gold medal in their respective athletic events at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator
To the
Go.
Committee on Rules.
228, commending and congratulating Philippine men's esports Cebol team for capturing the gold medal in Mobile Legends Bang Bang Esports event at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
229, commending and congratulating the Philippine women's football team for winning the country's first ever gold medal in women's football at the Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
230, commending and congratulating Aliyah Finegan, John Ivan de la Cruz, and for their exemplary performance and gold medal victories in gymnastics at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games by Senator Go.
The Committee on Rules.
231, commending and congratulating event at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
The Committee on Rules.
232, commending and congratulating Dean Michael Rojas and Kimberly Ann Custodio for their gold medal victories in Jiu-Jitsu at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
233, commending and congratulating the Philippine Judo team and Chino C for capturing the gold medal in their respective judo events at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
234, commending and congratulating Zara Bon as for winning the gold medal in the women's kickboxing event at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
235, commending and congratulating Filipino athletes Rolly Nathaniel, Edsel Gino, Erin Maternicor, and Genesis Pible for bagging the gold medal in their respective shooting events at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
Committee on Rules.
236, commending and congratulating Joanny Del Gacco and Christine Paraon for capturing the gold medal in rowing at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Go.
Committee on Rules.
237, commending and congratulating Islay Erica Bumogao and LJ Rafael Yasay for their gold medal victories in Muay Thai at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games by Senator Go.
The Committee on Rules.
238, commending and congratulating Filipino athletes Melvin Sakay, Samuel German, and Michael Ver Anton Kumaling for bagging the gold medal in their respective modern pentathlon events at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games in Thailand by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
Congratulating and commending the Philippine delegation for placing sixth and bringing pride and honor to the country in the 2025 33rd Southeast Asian SEA Games by Senator Cayetano P.
To the Committee on Rules.
240, congratulating and commending Filipino swimmer Kyla Noel Sanchez for extraordinary 8-medal haul in the swimming events of the 2025 33rd Southeast Asian SEA Games in Thailand by Senator Cayetano P.
To the Committee on Rules.
241, congratulating and commending Filipino tennis player Alexandra Alex Maniego Ayala for her historic gold medal triumph in the 33rd Southeast Asian SEA Games, ending the nation's 26-year championship drought in women's single tennis by Senator Cayetano P.
To the Committee on Rules.
242, congratulating and commending the Philippine women's national football team, the Filipinas, for historically winning the country's first gold medal in women's football at the 2025 33rd Southeast Asian SEA Games in Thailand by Senator Cayetano P.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
243, directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct a review of Republic Act No. 9513, otherwise known as the Renewable Energy Act of 2008, and related policies with the end in view of strengthening the Philippines' renewable energy regime, addressing structural and regulatory bottlenecks hindering clean energy development, and drawing policy insights from the renewable energy model of Iceland, particularly in geothermal and hydropower development by Senator Padilla.
Referred to the Committee on Energy.
244, directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the compliance of sanitary landfills with RA number 9003, otherwise known as the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000, as well as other applicable laws, rules, and regulations, and to determine the adequacy of existing laws in addressing the growing volume of waste by Senator Marcos.
Referred to the Committee on Environment.
245, congratulating and commending Alizon Ali Ruiz for her historic feat as the first Filipina open water swimmer to complete the 23-kilometer Bohol to Cebu Channel by Senator Cayetano P.
The Committee on Rules.
246, commending and congratulating Philippine men's and women's softball teams for winning gold medals in the 33rd Southeast Asian Games in Thailand by Senator Estrada.
The Committee on Rules.
247, commending and congratulating the Philippine women's football team for winning the historic first gold medal in football in the 2025 Southeast Asian Games in Thailand by Senator Estrada.
The Committee on Rules.
248, commending and congratulating the Gilas Pilipinas men's and women's basketball team for winning gold medals in the 33rd Southeast Asian Games held in Thailand by Senator Estrada.
To the Committee on Rules.
249, commending and congratulating the Alas Pilipinas women's beach volleyball team for winning the country's first ever gold medal in the sport in the 2025 Southeast Asian Games in Thailand by Senator Estrada.
To the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, before we move towards our agenda, we'd just like to greet visitors here in the Senate with us today. We have Mayor Glenda Aguilar of Caramoran, Catanduanes. We have, of course, the education officials are here. Secretary Sani Angara, USEC Fatima Panuntongan, USEC Willie Cabral, OIC USEC Carmela Oracion, OIC USEC Edson Byron C., and Executive Director Jenny Hoxon. I believe they're here to present to us the EDCOM final report.
Right,
We also
Yes, go ahead, proceed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We also have a guest of Senator Pangilinan and Senator Bamakino, League of Organic Agriculture Municipalities headed by Mayor Roel Molina and Councilor Lorenzo Sumuyong, and former Congressman Lawrence Waknan from Kalinga. And we also have with us from Bao Camarines Sur, Vice Mayor Jonathan Cugahon, and Board Member Nadia Ong, First District of Northern Samar, guest of Senator Win Gatchalian. May we recognize them, Mr. President? Congratulations and welcome them to the Senate.
Thank you. We welcome all our guests to the Senate and the former Chairman of Finance, Secretary Sani Angara, and earlier the former Senate President, Coco Pimentel, was with us. So we welcome all of them back to the Senate this afternoon. Thank you, Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, maybe we can ask for a minute suspension so that I think they're greeting the former colleague. Just a 1 minute.
Session suspended.
I move for the additional
Majority
reference
Leader.
of business, Mr. President.
Yes,
Thank
the
you.
additional reference of business, Secretary will proceed.
Bills on first reading, Senate Bill number 1667, an act amending Republic Act number 3591 as amended and other related laws to enhance the liquidation framework for banks and banking institutions and to strengthen the independence, authority, and financial capability of the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation and for other purposes by Senator Soto III.
Approved. I mean, referred to the Committees on Banks, Government Corporations, and Ways and Means.
1668, an act mandating the use of health rating system on the labels of packaged food products by Senator Tulfo R.
Referred to Committees on Health and Trade.
1669, an act defining and prohibiting overcapacity or overloading in public transportation, prescribing stiffer penalties therefore and for other purposes by Senator Tulfo R.
Referred to the Committee on Public Services.
1670, an act prohibiting the publication and proliferation of false information or fake news, establishing measures for fact-checking and platform accountability, and prescribing penalties therefore by Senator Tulfo R.
Referred to the Committee on Public Information.
1671, an act mandating and institutionalizing rollover data allocation schemes and providing for penalties by Senator Tulfo R.
Referred to the Committee on Public Services.
Resolutions. Resolution 250, directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the illicit trade of tobacco products as well as the alleged involvement of government security forces in such illegal activities by Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committees on Ways and Means and Public Order.
251, directing the Senate Committee on Public Services to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the rising...
Before you proceed, yes, Senator Pangilinan, what is your pleasure?
Yes, may we likewise request that the
250.
earlier resolution on smuggling, tobacco smuggling, be
Tobacco
referred
smuggling.
secondarily?
Maybe recall the
The referral
Senate
was-
bill.
yes.
Senate bill or Senate resolution?
Senate Resolution 250.
250. It's referred to the Ways and Means and Public Order. You want it referred to?
Likewise to the Committee on Agriculture. Tobacco actually is an agriculture product, but of course the
The Ways and Means.
final packaged
Yes,
processed product are cigarettes.
Well, yes, we will allow that because the third, it becomes the third, but it's the Committee on Ways and Means, so it is allowed by the rules.
Yes,
As
thank
long
you.
as it's either the Ways and Means or Finance, then we can accept a referral to more than two
Yes.
committees.
We've done it before.
Yeah, we've done it, yes. All right.
Additional.
Thank you, Mr. President.
We may proceed, and that is referred to the Committee on Agriculture as well.
251, resolution directing the Senate Committee on Public Services to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the rising incidence of pedestrian-related road accidents and the effectiveness of existing pedestrian infrastructure, traffic management, and safety measures to ensure the protection of commuting public by Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committees on Public Services and Public Works.
252, resolution directing the Committee on Basic Education to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the private-public partnership as a key strategy to address classroom congestion in the country by Senator Aquino.
Referred to the Committee on Basic Education.
253, directing the Committee on Science and Technology to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the challenges brought on by rapid technological advancements in the information technology business process management industry by Senator Aquino.
To the Committees on Science and Technology and Labor.
254, directing the Senate Committee on Urban Planning, Housing, and Resettlement to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the continuing housing insecurity and threats of displacement faced by urban poor communities and the implementation of government housing and resettlement policies by Senator Aquino.
Referred to the Committee on Urban Planning, Housing, and Resettlement.
255, congratulating and commending the Philippine team and their coaching staff for their exceptional performance at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games, winning 50 gold medals, 73 silver medals, and 154 bronze medals by Senator Villanueva.
To the Committee on Rules.
256, resolution expressing the sense of the Senate in condemning recent public statements issued by the Embassy of the of the People's Republic of China concerning Philippine officials and institutions, and affirming the right of the Republic of the Philippines to assert its sovereign rights in accordance with international law, introduced by Senators Pangilinan, Soto III, Lacson, Zubiri, Tulfo E., Hontiveros, Tulfo R., Gatchalian, Legarda, Ejercito, Aquino, Estrada, Lapid, Villar C., and Villar M.
Referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we consider PS Resolution number 256. This is the resolution authored by Senator Pangilinan and several other colleagues. I'd like to ask, I so move, Mr. President, and then we can recognize.
Any objection? Hearing none, the consideration of Senate Resolution 256 is in order.
May I recognize the Minority Floor Leader, Mr. President.
Minority Leader is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Magandang hapon po. Sir President, napaka-importante nung resolution na to, hindi lang dahil sa issue sa West Philippine Sea, but also because of many other issues, our economic ties, people-to-people ties, our OFWs in Hong Kong, in mainland China, in Macau. That's why the minority, through myself, wrote a letter to the Majority Leader and yourself for your consideration po, na rather than adopting the resolution, we call a committee hearing. I think napakalalim po ng issue na to, and it will be good for us and the public na malaman talaga natin kung anong talagang sinabi ni Commodore Tariela at ano yung palitan ng kuro-kuro. Having said that, while it's under consideration, I'd like to thank you and the Majority Leader for allowing na mag-sponsorship muna today. And it was a tradition in the 19th Congress that it's not a rule, it's a tradition na after the sponsorship, you give everyone a day or two before we go to interpellation and adoption. But in that day or two, if the majority would see it fit to call a hearing rather than going straight to interpellation, that would be in my view, best. But again, Mr. President, we rule by what is the pleasure of the majority. So we will submit sa wisdom of the majority. But may I put that on record na baka maganda na magkaroon tayo ng hearing about this issue. Thank you, Mr. President.
We will, of course, seriously consider the recommendation of the Minority Leader.
Thank you very
Right.
much, Mr. President. Mr.
But
President,
just for the record, we have indeed made it a practice that when a bill is sponsored, we give it time for interpellations, a day or two thereafter. In the case of resolutions, usually we pass it the same day or after sponsorship. But in case of controversial resolutions or bills, we do give it some time. Yes. So I think the request is
reasonable.
quite in order. Yeah,
Thank you,
so
Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
therefore, I move for the previous motion and ask the Secretary to read the title of the measure. No. But
After na siguro, yeah.
maybe we can ask. Yes, but we need to ask the
It's
Secretary
already
to
on the
read the
floor.
title of the
It's
measure.
already considered. We ask the Secretary to read the title of the measure and ask the sponsor to
Yes, so we can recognize the
deliver
sponsor,
sponsorship
Senator
speech.
Pangilinan, after he reads the title of the measure.
Yes, the
Because I did not
Secretary
read
is
the title of the
recognized.
measure earlier, Mr. President. My apologies.
Resolution expressing the stance of the Senate in condemning recent public statements issued by the Embassy of the People's Republic of China concerning Philippine officials and institutions, and affirming the right of the Republic of the Philippines to assert its sovereign rights in accordance with international law.
Right, Senator Francis Pangilinan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader. Thank you, dear colleagues. Before we begin our sponsorship, we would like to thank the good Minority Leader for his earlier manifestation. And we too share in the earlier manifestation of the Senate President that given the controversies behind this resolution, we have no objection as to allowing our colleagues time to interpolate or perhaps even bring the matter to a Senate hearing after we have sponsored it and before adopting it, Mr. President. Mr. President, dear colleagues, it is my honor to sponsor and principally author proposed Senate Resolution number 256, together with Senate President Tito Soto, Vicente Soto III, Senate Pro Tempore Ping Lacson, Majority Leader Mig Zubiri, Senators Erwin and Rafi Tulfo, Risa Ontiveros, Win Gatchalian, Lauren Legarda, JV Ejercito, Bam Aquino, Jinggoy Estrada, Lito Lapid, Camille, and Mark Villar. May we also place on record that while they have affixed their signatures to this resolution, this does not mean that those who did not affix their signatures are objecting to this resolution. Precisely why, ultimately, in the end, it is when we move to call for a vote on this resolution that there we will determine who among our colleagues will support it or not. Introducing this measure does not mean that those who did not introduce this measure are opposed to this measure. Just for the record, Mr. President. Mr. President, dear colleagues, our Constitution mandates us to protect the Republic's sovereignty, territorial integrity, political independence, and dignity. In fulfilling this mandate, when we senators, representatives, the Coast Guard, or any public official who swore an oath speak on the West Philippine Sea and on the arbitral award, we are not merely expressing our opinions. We are carrying out our solemn duty to uphold and defend the Constitution, to defend the nation, and uphold the rule of law. Recently, an official of the Chinese embassy issued public statements in undiplomatic and disrespectful language, directly attacking incumbent members of Congress, including myself, for positions we took in defense of Philippine sovereignty and maritime rights. We took because we were upholding and defending the Constitution. The statements crossed the line from legitimate expression of a foreign state's views into interference in our domestic democratic debate. By adopting this resolution, the Senate tells China and the world that this institution will not be cowed, that this institution will defend our nation's sovereignty, that this institution will defend and uphold our Constitution as we swore to defend and uphold the Constitution. That we stand as one in saying, no foreign mission may dictate what Filipino senators or what Philippine senators can or cannot say in the lawful performance of their official duties. We may hold differing views on many matters, yet in this, we must stand together. We uphold our officials when they speak on behalf of our nation, and we safeguard our institutions when they are disparaged by outsiders. Second, this resolution is addressed to our own Department of Foreign Affairs. We acknowledge that the DFA last night issued a statement expressing serious concerns over the escalating exchanges and has made, quote, firm representations to the Chinese side. This action responds directly to our call in the whereas clauses of this resolution that the DFA engage in the government of the People's Republic of China, quote, in accordance with international law and established principles of state relations, end of quote. But we must also note, while China has summoned our ambassador in Beijing over remarks made by Philippine officials at home, it is their embassy that has publicly disparaged our legislators, our officials of the armed forces, our officials of the Coast Guard, and questioned our motives, sought to restrict what we say in our territory. That imbalance must not be allowed. It is incumbent upon the DFA to protect the country's sovereign rights and, standing in the community of nations, do more, go further. Third, our resolution addresses China's embassy in Manila. We know this pattern. The harsh public statements against Philippine officials are part of a wider strategy to harass and to intimidate those who defend our maritime rights, to discredit our legal victory before the arbitral tribunal under UNCLOS and to reverse the reality that their 9-line claim an absurd position of claiming 90% of the West Philippine Sea and the South China Sea, or 500,000 square kilometers of our exclusive economic zone. We cannot allow this to pass. At sea, this strategy manifests as dangerous maneuvers, water cannon attacks, ramming and blockades against our vessels, and attacking our fishermen, harassing them in the West Philippine Sea. In words, it manifests as propaganda, disinformation, and now direct attacks against senators, Coast Guard officers, and other public servants. We know their goal: to make the Philippines doubt itself, to make the international community doubt the rulings, to employ the divide and rule strategy by dividing our people and making our people fearful, and to pressure us into accepting so-called arrangements that quietly erode what we lawfully possess. So we say this with firmness, but without hatred. This is not the job of a diplomatic mission. The role of a diplomatic mission is, above all, to practice diplomacy, to assist nations in overcoming disputes, to clarify and to bridge differences. It is not to provoke, not to disparage, and certainly not to insult and threaten those who speak for their country. Despite everything, it is with optimism that we expect that the Embassy of China to return to that proper role. The arbitral award will not disappear. The 9-line has been rejected. That reality cannot be reversed by trolling, by insults, or by pressure. Accept that the international law, particularly the UNCLOS, of which China is a signatory to, applies to all member states, that all parties need to work toward mechanisms that respect every claimant's country's sovereign rights and legitimate interests. We also thank the international community for their steadfast support of the rule of law, affirming the arbitral award and the Philippines' sovereign rights, as well as rights over our exclusive economic zone, for consistently calling out China on its escalating aggressive behavior in the West Philippine Sea. Pero higit sa lahat, ang resolusyon na ito ay para sa buong sambayanan. Sa ating mga mangingisda na naapektuhan, tuwing nagsasalita kami sa bulwagang ito tungkol sa ating karapatan sa ilalim ng pandaigdigang batas, kayo ang aming ipinagtatanggol. Pinagtatanggol ang karapatan ninyong mangisda ng malaya sa ating karagatan ng walang takot. Sa ating Coast Guard at Armed Forces, kasama ninyo ang Senado sa nananinindigan. Saludo kami sa inyong tapang at hindi namin kayo pababayaan. At sa lahat ng ating mga kababayan, lalo na sa mga kabataan, mahalaga ang ating relasyon sa China, pero sa ating kapayapaan, sa presyo ng pagkain, sa trabaho, kaya naman batas at diplomasya ang dapat pinipilit ipairal. Pero alam nating hindi pag-aatubili ang sagot sa mga bully. Hindi nabibili ng pananahimik ang kapayapaan at hindi nagtataguyod ang batas ng pag-aamo-amo. Respeto, paggalang, yan ang pinakamahusay na sandigan ng isang matatag at maayos na relasyon ng dalawang mga bansa. Ito ang gustong tiyakin ng resolusyon na ito. But beyond this resolution, we propose a way forward. As this year's chair of ASEAN, the Philippines has the opportunity to help conclude a rule-based, fair, workable, and lateralized mechanism on the conduct of parties in the South China Sea. We believe that such code of conduct be firmly anchored in international law, including UNCLOS and the principles reflected in the arbitral award. We ask our neighbors, partners, and allies, support the Philippines initiative, support ASEAN's effort to support a region where disputes are managed by law and dialogue, not by insults, bullying, force, or threats. Ngayon, sa panahong tumitindi ang pandaigdigang tensyon, sinisiguro ko magkakasangga tayo. Senado, DFA, Armed Forces of the Philippines, DND, Coast Guard, BIFAR, buong sambayanang Pilipinas, magkasangga tayo laban sa pangiinsulto, laban sa pagbabangga, sa pagwa-water cannon at pakikipaghabulan sa ating mga mangingisda at sundalo. Iisa tayo bilang isang republika na nananindigan para sa ating mga karapatan at dignidad. Mr. President, colleagues, for all these reasons, I respectfully urge the adoption of Senate Resolution number 256. Maraming salamat.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, we have several of our colleagues who want to co-sponsor the measure, namely Senator Jinggoy Estrada, Senator Erwin Tulfo, and Senator J.V. Ejercito. May we recognize Senator Jinggoy Ejercito for his sponsorship?
Senator Jingo Estrada is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, dear colleagues, I rise to co-sponsor a resolution expressing the sense of the Senate to condemn the unacceptable remarks of the Chinese Embassy in Manila against our Philippine officials with regard to the West Philippine Sea. I pose this question: what is the business of Chinese embassy officials criticizing our public officials and even calling them names, branding senators as helpers of Philippine Coast Guard Commodore J. Tariela in defending our rights in the West Philippine Sea because, as they claim, Commodore Tariela can't win over the argument. Hindi man ako sang-ayon sa naging gawin ni Commodore Tariela, ngunit hindi ito sapat na dahilan upang pakialaman ng Chinese Embassy ang internal affairs at soberenya ng ating bansa. This is not only an assault against individual senators, but an affront to the Philippine Senate as an institution. This representation joins the chorus in strongly condemning the pronouncements of the Chinese Embassy in Manila against our public officials. We should not just let this slide. There is no argument to begin with. The 2016 Arbitral Award is final and binding. Atin ang West Philippine Sea. This is all part of their tactics. They are looking to scare, coerce, and intimidate their neighbors to pursue their wild imaginary claims over our territories. Even after an arbitral ruling delivered a unanimous and enduring decision in 2016, firmly asserting that the Philippines has a full exclusive economic zone in the West Philippine Sea, invalidating China's claim to almost 80% of the Philippines' EEZ. Both China and the Philippines, pursuant to their treaty obligations under the UNCLOS, are legally bound to comply with this decision. As your former chairperson of the Senate Committee on National Defense and Security, Peace, Unification, and Reconciliation, my position on the West Philippine Sea has always been consistent with the position of the Philippine government under President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. The UNCLOS and the Arbitral Award continue to be the foundation of our actions and policies on the West Philippine Sea. But China had no respect for the 2016 arbitral ruling and for the international law, just as they had no respect to our fishermen, even water cannoning them, to the Philippine Coast Guard and the Philippine Navy patrols, and recently to the elected senators of this republic. Namimihasa na kayo. O walang kaya. Sino ba pumapanig sa kanila sa pang-angkin sa West Philippine Sea? Ang sagot, halos wala. Hindi ang international na batas, hindi ang pandaigdigang komunidad, at lalong hindi ang mga bansang direktang apektado ng kanilang pang-angkin. Ang tinatawag nilang historical rights ay hindi kinikilala ng modernong batas pandagat, at ang pagdidikta sa pamamagitan ng lakas o puwersa ay hindi nagiging katotohanan kahit idaan pa sa pananakot at mapanganib na maniobra. Kahit gaano pa kadami at kalaki ang kanilang barko at kahit idaan pa sa propaganda na walang basehan. Mr. President, we as a nation will continue to assert our rights under international law. Our kababayans deserve nothing less than a government that firmly stands its ground in asserting our sovereignty and defending our nation's interest. Mr. President, I repeat, atin ang West Philippine Sea. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Majority Leader.
Next to sponsor, Mr. President, is our distinguished colleague, Senator Erwin Tulfo.
Senator Erwin Tulfo is recognized to co-sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise to co-sponsor Senate Resolution Number 256, condemning the recent public statements issued by the Embassy of the People's Republic of China, directed against Philippine officials and institutions. The question now, Mr. President, is bawal na po bang kondinahin natin ang mga pahayag ng China laban sa ating mga opisyal at mga pinagagawa nito sa ating teritoryo? Isa lang po ang tanong, bawal na po ba? Kasi sa huli ko pong basa, ayon po sa ating konstitusyon, ay meron po tayong kalayaan sa pagpapahayag. There is freedom of speech, Mr. President. And I also want to remind not only the Embassy of China, but other diplomatic missions as well in our country, that in the Vienna Convention of Diplomatic Relations of 1961, it clearly states one of the functions of a diplomatic mission includes promoting friendly relations between the sending state and the receiving state, tayo po yun, and the developing their economic, cultural, and scientific relations. A diplomatic agent shall enjoy immunity from criminal of the receiving state, immunity from criminal cases of the receiving state. He shall enjoy immunity from its civil and administrative jurisdiction with exceptions. Without prejudice, though, to their privileges and immunity, it is the duty of all persons enjoying such privileges and immunities to respect laws and regulations of the receiving state. They also have a duty not to interfere in the internal affairs of the state. Paalala ko po, and I would like to remind all our diplomatic missions to please review the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations of 1961. Mr. President, malinaw din po sa Section 7, Article 2 of the 1987 Constitution that in our relations with other states, the paramount consideration shall always be national sovereignty, territorial integrity, national interest, and the right to self-determination. For years, the Philippines has acted with restraint and good faith. We have pursued peaceful negotiations. We have exhausted legal remedies and diplomatic processes. We have chosen dialogue over confrontation, law over force, and cooperation over conflict. But despite these efforts, China continues to engage in acts that intimidate and harass our fisher folks, endanger our Coast Guard, and question the authority of our institutions. Let me be clear, Mr. President, our commitment to peace does not mean acquiescence. Our preference for diplomacy does not mean silence in the face of bullying. We will not tolerate statements or actions that demean our officials, undermine our sovereignty, or erode our national dignity. There comes a time when a nation must speak with clarity and firmness. And that time is now, Mr. President. It is time to stand for our country, to defend our people, and to assert peacefully but firmly that the Philippines will not be treated as less than an equal. For this reason, I fully and unequivocally support this resolution. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.
Next to co-sponsor the measure, Mr. President,
Yes.
is Senator J.V. Harrison. May we recognize him.
Senator J.B. Ejercito is recognized.
Mr. President, my dear colleagues, good afternoon. Tinuturing ko pong pagtaguyod ng aking sinumpang tungkulin sa ating konstitusyon at sa minamahal nating bayan bilang halal na senador ng Republika ng Pilipinas ang pagtindig at pagsuporta sa proposed Senate Resolution number 256. Mr. President, let me reiterate my position yesterday. Hindi po tayo magpipikit mata at magbibingi-bingihan at lalong hindi po mali ang tumindig para sa interes ng Pilipinas at soberenya ng ating bansa. For the record, dear colleagues, we also want to find a way to restore our relationship and extend once more the hand of friendship to the People's Republic of China. We recognize that this relationship runs deep, not just between our two governments, but between our two peoples. However, any effort to repair and restore this relationship must be rooted in mutual respect as equals, as sovereign members of the community of nations. Mr. President, siguro po hindi nakakatuwa na marinig sa Chinese Embassy officials, sa bagong katatalaga pala na ambassador, ang mga salitang hindi magaganda sa ating mga mismong opisyal na tayo po ang host country. Kung ganito po ay dapat siguro ay hindi pa naman natin idideklara person ng grata, pero kung ganito ay sana'y palitan po siya dahil hindi nakakatulong sa tensyonado ng sitwasyon ng ating bansa. Ang ambassador sana po ay dinadaan sa diplomasya para maayos, maging maganda ang relasyon ng China at Pilipinas. Pero kung ganito po, ang pag-uugali at karakter ng bagong ambassador ay hindi po makakatulong sa relasyon ng China at Pilipinas. Mr. President, the arbitral award that was hard-won under the legal framework of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, is a fact that international law that no amount of coercion or distortion can erase. And our friends from the People's Republic must come to understand that asserting our rights as a sovereign nation is not provocation, nor is it a duty that will shirk from even in the face of forceful intimidation. Tinataguyod po natin ito para sa mga mangingisdang Pilipino na halos araw-araw hinaharap ang pananakot ng pambobomba ng tubig ng mga dambuhalang barko ng mga dayuhan para lamang makapangisda sa sarili nating karagatan. Para din po ito sa ating po mga Coast Guard na binubuli ng mga mas malalaking barko mula sa China. Kasama po ninyo ang representasyong ito at ang inyong Senado sa matatag na pagtindig para sa bandila, para sa bayan. Dahil ang sa Pilipinas ay sa Pilipinas at hindi natin kailanman isusuko ang ating kasarilan. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.
Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
we have two other colleagues. Senator Raffy Tulfo would like to insert for the record his sponsorship of the measure, as well as Senator Lauren Legarda. Both will insert to the record.
Senator Raffy Tulfo and
Senator Lauren Legarda.
Lauren Legarda.
Yes, Mr. President.
All right, so inserted into the records.
And we'd like to recognize our distinguished Deputy Majority Floor Leader, Senator Risa Ontiveros, to also give a manifestation.
Senator Risa Ontiveros is recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. President. By way of a very brief co-sponsorship and more of a manifestation, gusto ko lang pong i-bring sa atensyon ng lahat ng mga kasama dito sa Senado na nung oras na 3:22 p.m. ngayong hapon, 22 minutes lamang mula nung binuksan natin ang ating sesyon at posibleng bago pa ispinonsor ng Ginoo mula sa Pampanga, Senator Kiko, ang ating Sense of the Senate na resolution, may post na naman ang Chinese Embassy Manila tungkol sa paksa ng ating resolusyon. Ngayon naman, si Deputy Spokesperson of the Chinese Embassy, Guo Wei, sabi niya, echoes do not make a claim true. What matters is whether the argument stands up to scrutiny, not how many voices repeat it. At nirepost nila yung visuals ng 15 senators condemn Chinese embassy's criticism of Philippine officials. Na ang ibig sabihin ng unang linya ng post ni Deputy Spokesperson of the Chinese Embassy Manila, Guo Wei, gaya-gaya lang tayo sa isa't isa, tayong lahat na pumirma so far sa resolusyon. Ang ibig sabihin sa post niya, hindi daw tatayo yung ating pagkondena sa mga pinagsasabi nila bago pa ang araw na ito at hindi tatayo yung ating iginigiit na may karapatan at tungkulin tayong itaguyod ang pambansang interes. At minamaliit niya na halos 2/3 ng Senado ay pumirma nitong resolusyon. Ibig sabihin po, hanggang 36 minutes ago, half an hour before, salita pa rin ang salita ang Chinese Embassy Manila tungkol sa issue na ginawa natin ng resolusyon sa pamumuno ni Senator Kiko. Ganyan pa rin ang tono nila, bastos, walang paggalang. At gusto pa rin nila sila ang masusunod. Hindi lang sa dagat ng Pilipinas, hindi lang sa social media ng Pilipinas, pati sa Senado ng Pilipinas. Kaya saganang akin lamang po, Mr. President at mga kasama, yang ganyang consistent na pambabastos, walang pagrespeto, napaka-undiplomatic na stance, saganang akin lamang po, ay lalong nagbibigay ng urgency na maaprubahan ang ating resolusyon. Salamat po, Mr. President.
Before anything else, allow me to first associate myself with the manifestations of the principal sponsor, Senator Pangilinan, and the other sponsors and our colleagues. Secondly, yes, we will be perhaps studying the resolution, but in the same light, I suggest that we study the possibility of declaring that particular person a persona non grata. And that is very, very serious when the Senate does that. So I suggest that the Committee on Rules study the possibility. Senator Lacson is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a point of clarification, and I'd like to address this to the distinguished sponsor of the resolution. Did I hear you correctly when you said that you were amenable to holding committee hearings in relation to this resolution?
Well, I was open to the suggestion. I did not actually say I was adopting it.
Thank you for the clarification. And if I may, Mr. Senate President, I consulted ChatGPT. Only the head of state may declare persona non grata when it involves diplomats. So we can only recommend, if we want to recommend. So persona non grata sa Senate. Yeah, but we cannot declare any diplomat persona non grata, just to clarify, subject to validation by our lawyers in this hall, Mr. President. Thank you.
Well, as I said, it is a suggestion, and let us study the possibility. Majority Leader?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, before we suspend consideration of the matter, I just also want to put my opinion on the matter. I fully support the resolution of Senator Kiko and the 14 others who signed this resolution. Gusto lang namin malaman ng Coast Guard at ating Philippine Navy na hindi sila nag-iisa, na marami sa gobyerno tumutulong at sumusuporta sa kanila. At sa tingin ko, buong bansa, kung magpa-survey po tayo, 90%, Mr. President, maybe 90+% of the Filipinos support our Coast Guard in protecting our islands that have been declared internationally, not just by us, but internationally as our territory, Mr. President, our exclusive economic zone. So when I was Senate President, I echo the same voice as my colleagues here today. I just want to add that voice, that very loud voice, condemning all these acts being done to our Coast Guard and our Navy in the West Philippine Sea. And the fishermen, lalong-lalo na po, hirap na hirap ang ating mangingisda dito sa pangyayaring ito. So we support the resolution, we support our colleagues, we support our men and women in the field, in the oceans, defending our national sovereignty, Mr. President. So maraming salamat sa sponsors, Senator Kiko and all those who co-sponsored. But to give our other colleagues a chance to read and study the resolution, let's limit it possibly, Mr. President, with the permission of the body, on discussions on the floor. Let's just do debates and interpellations. No need to bring it up to a committee hearing and then we'll have an extended firefight in the committees, the committee level. I think the debate can actually be done on the floor. Let us discuss the positions on the floor, Mr. President. And then let us debate amongst ourselves what is the best course forward for our people and for our sovereignty, Mr. President. And therefore, to allow our colleagues maybe some time to study the measure, I move that we suspend temporarily the consideration of PS Resolution 256 that we can take up on another day, maybe tomorrow, and start the debate, Mr. President. And let's act on it the soonest para pakita natin po sa taong bayan ng Senado ay nag-iisa, nagkakaisa para sa soberanya ng ating bansa.
Yes, I think 24 hours is good enough for us to study the measure. Senator Pangilinan is
Just a very brief manifestation. Mr. President, if after studying the proposal of the Senate President and that the Senate Majority Leader deems it necessary to file a Senate resolution expressing the sense of the Senate that the President should declare the deputy spokesperson as persona non grata, we will support the measure, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Pangilinan. Majority Leader, yes, the motion is to suspend
Yes,
consideration.
Mr. President.
All right, any objection? Hearing none. Consideration is suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, from the topic of sovereignty, now let us discuss the very important topic of education. We have with us here the education experts behind us, including our distinguished former colleague, Senator Sonny Angaros, now Secretary of the Department of Education. With that, I'd like to recognize our colleagues. Which one first? We'd like to recognize the chairperson of you're the chair, the chairperson of EDCOM in the Senate, no other than Senator Bam Aquino, to avail of the privilege hour, particularly in the issue on education and the EDCOM, Mr. President.
Senator Bam Aquino is recognized.
Mr. President, mga kababayan at kapwa ko Pilipino, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. I rise today to submit the Second Congressional Commission on Education's final report entitled Turning Point, a Decade of Necessary Reform. Alongside this report is the 10-year National Education and Workforce Development Plan, or NATPLAN, 2026 to 2035. Alongside numerous colleagues, we have also filed Senate Concurrent Resolution number 8, adopting the National Education and Workforce Development Plan and the recommendations of the Second Congressional Commission on Education as the 10-year policy framework of the national government for education. And at the right time, we hope that the members of this chamber will support this concurrent resolution. Mula pa po sa unang termino natin, binigyan na po natin ng halaga ang advokasya sa edukasyon. At nung sinimulan po natin ang ating pangalawang termino noong Hulyo, binahagi po natin ang goals ng ating committee sa pag-address ng krisis sa edukasyon. Kasama na po ang pag-address sa nutrisyon, kakulangan ng classroom, kawalan ng textbook at internet connectivity, support for teachers, problems with the learning gap and the curriculum, at saka syempre po ang employability. Matagal po nating painiwala na ang unang hakbang tungo sa reforma ay ang tamang pagtukoy sa mga problema. At dahil po sa EDCOM report, nagagawa po natin ito. Mula po noon, diniin na po natin na ang kailangan ng kabataan at ang ating bayan ay edukasyon at hindi korupsyon. Kaya nais po natin pasalamatan ang ating co-chairpersons, Senator Lauren Legarda, Congressman Roman Romulo, and Congressman Jude Asidre. Kasama rin po ang ating EDCOM 2 commissioners, Senator Alan Cayetano, Senator Win Gatchalian, Senator Joel Villanueva, and our congressional counterparts, Congressman Steve Solon, Congressman Zia Alonte, and Congresswoman Ana Veloso Tuazon. Papasalamatan ko rin po ang ating dating commissioners, Senator Pia Cayetano, Senator Chis Escudero, Senator Coco Pimentel, Congressman Mark Go, Congressman Khalid Dimaporo, and Congressman Pablo John Garcia. Siyempre po, nais rin po natin magpasalamat sa EDCOM team led by Executive Director Dr. Carol Mark Yee, alongside the EDCOM Advisory Council and the Standing Committee members. At siyempre, maraming salamat din sa ating former colleague and former EDCOM Commissioner, now Secretary of Education, Sani Angara, who is with us today, our Commission on Higher Education Chair, Shirley Agrupis, and TESDA Director General, Kiko Benitez. Isa po sa pinaka-nakakabahalang nailantad ng EDCOM report sa mga nakaraang araw ay ang issue ng proficiency. Ito po ang kahusayan ng isang estudyante, hindi lang po sa pagbabasa o literasiya, pero sa husay sa lahat ng asignatura. Ayon po sa EDCOM, kada akyat ng estudyante sa susunod na antas, bumababa ang kanyang kahusayan. Mula po sa grade 3, kung saan 30.5% ang proficient, bumabagsak po ito sa 0.47% pagdating ng grade 12 o sa huling taon ng senior high school. Out of every 1,000 senior high school graduates, only 4 are truly ready. Nung una ko po itong nabasa, sa totoo lang po, parang nanlamig po tayo. Hindi po ako makapaniwala. Pero sa totoo lang po, ang datos ay datos at ito ang datos ng ating report. At doon po, nakikita natin kung gaano kalala at gaano kalalim ang krisis sa ating edukasyon. Mr. President, pag mababa ang proficiency, apektado ang buong lipunan. Kung hindi marunong makaintindi ng matematika at agham, hindi marunong magbasa at magsulat, hindi rin po sila makakapasok at gagraduate ng high school o ng kolehiyo o makapagtatrabaho ng maayos. Kung matutuloy po at hindi ho natin aagapan ang krisis sa edukasyon, milyong-milyong pangarap ang mawawala at masasayang. Sa ating pong konsultasyon, narinig po natin ang mga kwento ng mga guro. Para sa isa kong estudyante, sabi po ng isang guro, ang kawalan ng kakayahang magbasa ay kawalan ng kanyang boses. Sabi naman po ng isa pang guro na nakausap natin, ang low proficiency nakita niya sa isang bata na kahit sariling kaarawan at edad hindi po makilala. Ang alam lang ang tunog ng mga letrang buo-buo ng kanyang pangalan, yun lang po ang tanging niyang naiintindihan. Ayon po sa EDCOM at sa ating konsultasyon, ang low proficiency rates ay tumutukoy sa malalim na issue sa sistema ng ating edukasyon. These low proficiency rates are indicative of the overall magnitude of our crisis in education. Oo, nagkapandemya, pero aminin na po natin na itong kalagayan ng ating edukasyon ay dahil rin po sa pagpapabaya. Hindi lang po ng isa o dalawang tao, kundi nating lahat sa pagpapabaya at maling prioridad na nagdulot po nito. We must face this head-on. Oras na po para baguhin ang sistema na hindi gumagana at simulan ang mga solusyon sa mga isyong sumasalot sa ating edukasyon. Huwag po nating sayangin ang oportunidad na ito. Siguraduhin natin na mahusay at mabisa ang implementasyon ng pinakamalaking education budget sa ating kasaysayan at ng mga reformang pinagalaban po natin para tuloy-tuloy ang reforma at pondo, hindi lang po para next year, but for the next 10 years. Mahalaga po na tutukan natin ang implementation ng 10-year NAT plan na nagsisilbing gabay and whole of nation, whole of government approach para solusyonan ang krisis sa edukasyon. Yung NAT plan po isang roadmap at nasa atin po para tahakin ito. Nasa ehekutibo, nasa legislatura, nasa mamamayan, guro, estudyante at mga magulang. Nasa atin po para sundan ang roadmap, bigyan ng tamang pondo at importansya at siguraduhin ang implementation po nito. Sa tulong ng NAT plan bilang gabay, tutugunan po natin ang mga pangailangan ng mag-aaral sa bawat antas ng kanilang pag-aaral. Sa early childhood or kinder to grade 3, sapat na nutrisyon para tugunan ang malnutrition at stunting. Sa elementary, junior high school, maayos na learning environment, address the classroom gap, provide free internet, textbooks at syempre tugunan ang low proficiency rates. Sa senior high school students, TechVoc students sa ilalim ng TVET at mga gagraduate ng college, suporta sa school to employment program. Sa higher education, tamang implementasyon ng libreng kolehiyo para magkaroon ng siguradong trabaho. Ilan lang po yan sa mga priority na makikita sa NAT plan at napakahaba po sa totoo lang ng listahan. Pero naniniwala po ako na may pag-asa pa rin. Kahit ganito po ang nakikita nating datos, meron naman pong pag-asang nakikita din. Unang-una, nakamit po natin ang pinakamalaking budget para sa edukasyon sa kasaysayan ng ating bansa. Of course, headed by our Chairman of Finance, Senator Gatchalian. 1.34 trillion pesos para sa edukasyon, para sa classrooms, nutrition, textbook, libreng kolehiyo, at subsidiya at allowance ng mga estudyante. Malaking panalo po ito para sa estudyanteng Pilipino. Ang mahalaga po ngayon, ang pondo na ito ma-implement ng maayos, sa tamang presyo at sa tamang panahon. Pangalawa, tuloy-tuloy po yung pagpasa natin ng mga reformang kinakailangan. Just yesterday, we passed on third reading the Classroom Building Acceleration Program. Isa pong ehemplo ng pagsasama-sama para sa kabataang Pilipino at estudyanteng Pilipino. Kanina po, nag-uusap kami ni Secretary Angara at sabi nga po, magandang goal ang masimulan ang 25,000 classrooms ngayong 2026. Sa totoo lang po, malaking talon po ito mula po sa 2025 goals. According to DepEd, 99 lang po ang nabuong classroom ng DPWH in 2025. From 99 to 25,000 is a big leap. Pero naniniwala po ako kung tulong-tulong po tayo, kasama ng mga LGU, ng mga CSO, nakatutok ang legislatura, nakafocus ang ehekutibo, kung tulong-tulong po tayo, magagawa po natin ang record-breaking 25,000 classrooms started in 2026. Pangatlo, dahil galing rin po ako sa Iloilo nitong nakaraang weekend sa Dinagyang, nakita ko po doon na ang Iloilo ay isang POC or Proof of Concept on Basic Education Services. Nakwento po nila sa akin. Nung nagsimula po sila, 3 out of 10 grade 3 learners could read. Only 3 out of 10. Kumbaga po, 30% lang yung kayang magbasa. Pero sa partnership po ng DepEd, ng EDCOM, ng Iloilo LGU at ng Sinergia Foundation, nataas po nila ang literacy rates mula 30% to 90%. Isa pong proof of concept na kaya po nating matawid ang napakababang numero pagdating sa proficiency. Nagawa po nila ito sa tamang paggamit ng pondo, kasama po ang empowerment and accountability ng mga LGU at mga komunidad. Nung hinarap na daw po ang datos sa mga mayor at mga barangay captain, nung nakita nila ilang estudyante ang hindi marunong magbasa, ilang estudyante yung laging behind, yung mga mayor, governor, barangay captain, kasama ng mga magulang, ng guro at mga estudyante, nagtulungan para itong 30% learning rate po nila naging 90% literacy rate. Nakikita po natin na mga ehemplo gaya po nito na meron pong mga pag-asa, meron pong magandang kwento, meron pong totoong solusyon ay pwede pong maikalat sa buong Pilipinas, hindi lamang sa isang lugar o isang probinsya lamang. Ito pong mga ang nakikita po natin yung tamang pagpondo, patuloy na pagpasa ng mga reforma, and proof of concepts in different provinces and regions in our country, ito po yung nagbibigay sa atin ng pag-asa na kahit hindi ho maganda itong nasa report, nakikita ho natin na may pag-asa po tayo pagdating sa pag-address ng krisis sa edukasyon sa ating bansa. Lahat po tayo, mula presidente, mga mambabatas, mga LGU officials, hanggang barangay captain, kailangan po talaga magsama-sama at magtrabaho para bumuo ng panibagong solusyon sa mga matagal ng problema sa sistema ng ating edukasyon. Meron na po tayong historic funding. Ngayon naman po ang kailangan natin, historic solutions to our historic problems. At inaasahan ko po, sa bagong yugto, dito po sa 10-year plan na hinahain po namin dito po sa Kamara, uhugutin po natin ang tapang para magawa ang kailangan para sa kabataang Pilipino. Maraming salamat, Mr. President, and we thank our colleagues for their continued support for all of the reforms when it comes to education in the Philippines. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Senator Bamakino, for that EDCOM report. Majority, yes, Senator Erwin Tulfo is recognized.
Ginoong Pangulo, mga kasamahan, bilang katuwang sa paghubog po ng kinabukasan ng ating bansa, ako po ay kaisa sa misyon ng EDCOM 2. Ito ay hindi lamang isang komisyon. Nagsilbi rin silang ilaw sa madilim na krisis ng ating sistema ng edukasyon. Sa loob lamang po ng 3 taon, napatunayan ng EDCOM 2 na ang pagbabago ay hindi lamang isang pangarap, kundi isang planong may konkretong hakbang. Kaugnay nito, nagtitiwala kami sa maigting nagpagbabantay para maisakatuparan ang 10-year National Roadmap na nakapaloob sa Turning Point EDCOM 2 Report. Ito ang magsisilbing gabay sa pagpapabuti ng antas ng edukasyon sa bansa. Tayo ay patuloy na umaasa sa mahusay na pamumuno ni Dr. Carol Marquis ng ating DepEd Secretary Sani Angara at sa suporta ng ating mga chairperson, Senator Bamakino, Senadora Loren Legarda at sa mga commissioners, Senator Win Gatchalian, Senator Joel Villanueva, gayon din sa patuloy na pagkakaisa ng lahat ng institusyon, mga guro, mga magulang, upang makapaghatid po ng kalidad na edukasyon sa ating mga mag-aaral. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.
Senator Joel Villanueva is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, dear colleagues, nais po muna nating magbigay pugay sa ating dating kasamahan at kasama dito sa EDCOM 2, Mr. President, na ngayon ay kalihim ng kagawaran ng edukasyon, Secretary Sani Angara, sa ating ED, Executive Director Carl Mark. Mr. President, ang unang Congressional Commission po on Education was convened 34 years ago in 1991, and this is in response to the deteriorating quality of Philippine education and chronic underinvestment in the sector. That first EDCOM led to the landmark reform of trifocalization, separating the governance of education among the Department of Education, the Commission on Higher Education, and Technical Education and Skills Development Authority. Mr. President, after several decades, the nation once again called for a second Congressional Commission on Education. This call was shaped by a clear and undeniable reality: persistent learning gaps and the country's weak performance doon po sa mga international assessments, such as PISA, which exposed a deep learning crisis in our education system. Nagkaroon pa ho ng COVID-19 pandemic, which further exacerbated these long-standing weaknesses, deepening learning losses and revealing the limits of our education systems in times of crisis. Mr. President, I am so blessed, grateful, and honored to be one of the authors of Republic Act number 11899, or the Second Congressional Commission on Education Act, enacted in 2022 during the 18th Congress, which gave life to EDCOM 2. Since its inception, I have served as one of the commissioners Kabilang po ang aking panunungkulan noon bilang chairperson ng Standing Committee on Technical Vocational Education and Training at Lifelong Learning. The mandate of EDCOM 2 has been clear from the very beginning: to identify priority reforms, establish clear benchmarks, and advance laws and policies that will strengthen our education and workforce development systems. Malinaw po ang direksyon natin noon pa man. In pursuit of this mandate, we did not stop at diagnosis alone. As author and sponsor, we moved for key reforms through legislation, including IBET, or Enterprise-Based Education and Training Act, the Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP, and the Lifelong Learning Development Framework Act, measures that translate the Commission's findings into concrete and lasting reforms. Mr. President, let me end by saying today, as we rise before this plenary to present the final report of EDCOM 2, entitled Turning Point, a Decade of Necessary Reforms, it is clear that we are at a pivotal moment in our nation's history. This report is the product of 3 years of rigorous study, wide-ranging consultations, and sustained legislative work. More importantly, Mr. President, it is a call to action, from analysis to implementation, and from fragmented initiatives to a coherent and long-term national direction. Panahon na po talaga ng pagkilos. The path ahead will not be easy. Education reform demands patience, sustained support, and commitment that goes beyond political terms and administrations. Kaya nga po ngayong taon na ito, salamat sa ating mga kasamahan dito sa Senado, sa pangunguna ng ating Chairperson of Finance, Senator Win Gatchalian, ang Chairperson ng ating Education, Senator Bam Aquino, at mga kasamahan natin dito sa Senado na nagtulong-tulong para mithi natin ang pinakamataas na budget for education sa kasaysayan ng ating bansa. 4.5% of our GDP. For the first time, we were able to hit that mark, Mr. President. And let me say, Mr. President, but the goal that we continue to pursue, an educated, capable, and globally competitive Filipino people, is worth every challenge and every sacrifice that this reform requires. Muli, Ginoong Pangulo, itaas po natin ang antas ng edukasyon sa ating minamahal na bayang Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po, and may God bless us all.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, we'd like to also recognize our distinguished colleague, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian.
Senator Sherwin Gatchalian is recognized.
Maraming salamat, Mr. President. Before I begin, allow me to greet the Secretary of the Department of Education, Secretary Sani Angara, who was one of the original members or original commissioners of EDCOM. In fact, he filed the first resolution to create the Second Congressional Commission on Education. And let me also greet our Executive Director, Edie Caroli. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it is an honor for me to stand alongside you today and beside our friends and fellow education advocates at the launch of the final report of the Second Congressional Commission on Education. The Second Congressional Commission on Education was established in 2022 with the mandate to conduct a comprehensive assessment of the country's education sector and recommend transformative, concrete, and targeted reforms to help the country become globally competitive in education and in the labor market. In the course of its mandate, the Commission conducted a system-wide review of our nation's entire education system. What it uncovered was a system in crisis. Gaps were everywhere in nutrition, the procurement of textbooks, and the quality of education itself. These compromised the learning of our youth and held them back from achieving their fullest potential. And the implication is clear. If we imperil the future of our young people, we do the same to the future of our nation. The final report of the Second Congressional Commission on Education is entitled Turning Point, a Decade of Necessary Reforms, 2026 to 2035. This is both appropriate and timely. It is a consolidation of the Commission's earlier work and thus more than catalog the education sector's problems. It situates them against a long-term roadmap with specific policy recommendations directed at addressing each problem, from early childhood education and development through the basic education to higher education, technical vocational education and training, and the strengthening of the teaching profession. And it accomplishes this while revealing that the gaps are systemic in nature, many of which are rooted in policy design, fragmented mandates, and long-standing institutional practice. These problems cannot solely be resolved by our educational agencies. They need sustained attention and commitment of Congress. In this regard, I place my full support behind this report and urge all of us to treat it as a shared frame of reference, an evidence-based and empirical guide to sustained reform. The heart of this final report is the National Education and Workforce Development Plan for 2026 to 2035. It is the first decadal roadmap for education in the history of the country. It recommends strategic investments in 5 priority industries: healthcare, digital technology, financial services, advanced manufacturing, and tourism. The plan further recommends expanding and strengthening career guidance in schools, accelerating industry-led curriculum development, as well as the Philippine Skills Framework. It also recommends pursuing strategic ladderization of NCs to produce higher credentialed graduates, as well as investing in the training and industry practitioners and improving the retention of returning migrants. Thirdly, the report calls for establishing model polytechnic universities, focusing on higher-level TVET programs that ladder into college degrees, among many other reforms. This report lays down our timeline, 10 years. It is longer than any term of anyone who sits in this chamber today. Hindi para sa atin ang timeline na ito. Ito ay para sa mag-aaral na nagsisimula pa lang sa kinder. Ito ay para sa mga estudyanteng hindi pa nakakapasok dahil sa sakit ng malnutrisyon. Ito ay para sa mga guro na kailangan magdoble ng shift dahil sa kakulangan sa classrooms. It is imperative then that the policies we enact stay the course and keep the systemic nature of problems we seek to address in mind. The quote from the report itself: reforms to succeed, they must transcend political cycles and remain firmly anchored on what learners need, not on shifting priorities. Education cannot restart every 3 to 6 years. Shortcuts and ad hoc solutions will not work. Thinking in silos is a recipe for failure. We have learned these lessons before. That being said, I know that we will all remain true to the long-term mission of restoring our country's education system to its rightful place among the region's best. We have already taken the first step by enacting the highest education budget in history of this country that meets the UNESCO benchmark of 4 to 6% of GDP. The 2026 education budget stands at 1.34 trillion pesos, or 3.4% of the nation's GDP. What remains now is to sustain this level of funding, to follow through by ensuring that it goes to the correct educational priorities. Mr. President, the final report of the Second Congressional Commission on Education has indeed revealed the depth of our education crisis, but it also shows us that this struggle is winnable, that this is a crisis we can overcome. Bihira tayo bigyan ng pagkakataong baguhin ang kasaysayan ng ating bansa. Ang panahong ito ay isa sa mga sandaling huhubog sa kinabukasan ng edukasyon sa Pilipinas. Malinaw kung gaano kalaki at kalalim ang problemang kinakaharap natin. Alam na natin kung ano ang dapat ayusin at may pondo na tayo para kumilos. There's no excuse. The rest now truly is up to us. Before I conclude, I would like to thank and acknowledge the entire EDCOM 2 Secretariat, led by Executive Director Dr. Carol Marquis, and the EDCOM2 Advisory Council for their dedication, guidance, and insight. I'd also like to thank Education Secretary Sani Angara for his steadfast and visionary leadership at the Department of Education. You always do remarkable work, and with your presence and passion for education are pivotal. Your presence and passion for education are pivotal to our success. I also acknowledge my co-commissioners, Senator Joel Villanueva, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, Senator Steve Solon, Representative Steve Solon, Representative Zia Alonto Adyong, and Representative Ana Victoria Veloso Tuason. Last but not certainly the least, I salute our co-chairperson, Senator Bam Aquino, our chairperson for the Senate Committee on Basic Education, Senator Lauren Legarda, chairperson of the Senate Committee on Higher Technical and Vocational Education, Representative Roman Romulo, chairperson of the House Committee on Basic Education, and Representative Jude Asidre, chairperson of the House Committee on Higher and Technical Education. I look forward to continuing our work together. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the final report of EDCOM2 now stands as part of the record of this Congress. The responsibility to carry its insights forward and make them real in the lives of the Filipino learners and families is in our hands. Thank you, Mr. President. Magandang hapon po sa lahat.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. May we recognize Senator Pia Cayetano, Mr. President.
Senator Pia Cayetano is recognized.
No, si...
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I just wanted to express my gratitude to the entire EDCOM family, from the commissioners, our colleagues, to the secretariat, of course, to the executive director, and to everyone who has made EDCOM what it is today. They have given invaluable contributions that have helped, that not just helped craft the bills, the measures that we have enacted, but have basically been the basis of the measures that we have enacted here. And it has really been, it has been able to provide so much guidance. It is a blessing that our secretary of the Department of Education came from EDCOM, so it was an easy, it was easier for him to implement. We were together with Senator Joel, Senator Sherwin. Sino original natin? Ako. And Senator Cheese. Yeah, we were the originals, no? But when Senator Angara left us, he took with him all these insights that we learned from EDCOM. So aside from the fact that we have so much faith in him, that's already a given, but we knew that we had equipped him with all the research that he would need and he continues to make use of. So I just really want to express this sense of gratitude for all the work that has been done. And I will take this home. Napakabigat. I don't know if anyone has, this is serious stuff. And I'm pretty sure that what is inside is as heavy and as meaningful as the weight it is, the weight that you can feel. I don't know, this is, what is this? 3 kilos? Anyway, it's a lot of stuff. We look forward to the continuation of the work that was started. We cannot stop because learning is a lifelong process, so EDCOM must continue its work. I would like to have more to say. Unfortunately, I wasn't feeling well and wasn't able to attend. So, di na ako mag-iimbento ng insights ko, but rest assured that I will go through this and then I will be posting my observations and my summaries, my own summary of what is contained here, because I think this is very valuable. Thank you, Mr. President. I do believe that our children are in good hands, not just with the Secretary, but with all the work that EDCOM has done. Thank you.
Senator Loni Legarda is recognized.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, partners in development, fellow Filipinos, 3 years ago, we embarked on a journey to confront a crisis. Today, I stand before you to declare that we have reached a turning point. I rise alongside our colleagues, Senator Bam Aquino, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Senator Joel Villanueva, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, Senator Pia Cayetano, and all our colleagues who have manifested their sponsorship speeches to formally submit to the Senate the Commission's final report, Turning Point, a decade of necessary reform, in the National Education and Workforce Development Plan, NATPLAN, 2026 to 2035. While our diagnosis was unflinching, our conclusion is undeniably hopeful. The crisis in Philippine education, while deep, is neither inevitable nor irreversible. We are not here today simply to catalog what is broken. We are here to present the proof that we have already begun to fix it. We are here to chart a future where the boundless potential of the Filipino learner is finally unleashed. Mr. President, cynicism is easy, but progress, however hard-won, is undeniable. In just 3 years, through the unprecedented collaboration between the executive and legislative branches, we have achieved what many thought was impossible. We have proven that the system can move. We have backed our vision with historic resources. For fiscal year 2026, we have secured a budget through our chair, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, 1.37 trillion for the education sector, the highest allocation in our history, reaching more than 4% of our GDP, inching closer to the global benchmark. We are no longer just talking about prioritizing education, we are funding it. We have restored equity to our free education. We discovered that our tertiary education subsidy was drifting away from those who needed it most. We acted. Because of our interventions, the share of the poorest beneficiaries, those from 4-piece and listahanan households, has surged from a low of 23% in year 2022 to 61% in 2024. We are putting the public back in public service. We have delivered landmark legislation. We did not just study the problems, we legislated solutions. We have passed 10 landmark laws in record time. As a chair of the Committee on Higher Technical and Vocational Education, and I've learned from many of the previous chairs, we must highlight the specific findings that affect our tertiary and workforce development sectors. For too long, our students have faced dead ends instead of open doors. We found a system rigid in its credentialing, where a skilled worker cannot easily transition to a college degree, and where a college graduate often lacks the job-ready skills demanded by the industry. We found that TESDA's mandate has drifted. Created as an authority to oversee skills development, it has become overwhelmed by its expanded mandate since 1994, as well as with direct training provision, consuming 40% of its budget, while its devolution to local governments remains unfulfilled after 30 years. We found a scholarship system that, until recently, failed to target the poorest, with the bulk of funds supporting low-level qualifications rather than the higher-level skills our economy needs. In higher education, we saw a Commission on Higher Education burdened by an explosion of mandates, 164 new laws giving it additional responsibilities since its creation in 1994, transforming it from a policy-making body into a massive financial service provider. We saw a lack of strategic direction, where state universities and colleges expand programs without a unified national plan, with increasingly duplicated programs with local and private colleges and universities. Against this backdrop, 10 regions do not have a single provider of a program in pharmacy, 13 in dentistry, 2 in early childhood education, and 14 in speech pathology. Meanwhile, In TVET, 14% of our trainees complete bread and pastry making and 15% in driving, as industry leaders lament the lack of well-trained workers in manufacturing, healthcare, and digital technology. These are symptoms of an education system that far too long has not been responsive to the needs of our people. However, Mr. President, this report is not a eulogy for our education system. It is a testament to resilience and the possibility of reform. I am filled with optimism for the future of our workforce. In the 19th Congress, we passed the enterprise-based education training framework, addressing many of the bottlenecks faced by the Dual Training System Act of 1994. This is a game changer. We are opening the doors for industries to be co-authors of our curriculum, ensuring that training leads directly to jobs. We are creating a system where diploma is a passport to employment, not a document of uncertainty. Most recently, the passage of the Lifelong Learning Development Framework Act has addressed this issue. We are building a country where education does not end at graduation. We are creating a system where a skilled worker can return to school, a college dropout can gain certification, where every Filipino can upskill and reskill throughout their lives. We are also breaking down the silos with the creation of the Education and Workforce Development Group, following the joint concurrent resolution advocated by EDCOM, adopted by both houses, DepEd, CHED, and TESDA, are finally sitting at the same table, planning with a single purpose. We're moving towards a seamless system where a student can climb from a national certificate to a master's degree without hitting dead ends. The document we submit today, the National Education and Workforce Development Plan for 2026 to 2035, is our covenant for the next decade. It is a plan anchored on the belief that the Filipino talent is indisputable. Across the world, Filipinos thrive even in the most demanding environments. Imagine what our youth can achieve if their own country finally gives them the support they deserve. This plan is not just a list of targets, it is a promise that we will fix the foundations, ensuring every child is nourished and reading by grade 3. A promise that we will value our teachers, unburdening them from administrative tasks so they can do what they do best, which is teach. A promise that we will align our training with the future, preparing our youth for high-value industries like healthcare, digital technology, and many more. Mr. President, we continue our work not with despair, but with a profound sense of possibility. The window for reform is open. The momentum is on our side. It is up to each of one of us to respond to this call with urgency, fueled by our faith in the potential of our youth as well as the responsibility of our generation to fix a broken education system so that they can fulfill their potential. As stated in the report, and I quote, "We shall fashion the frailty of our circumstances into a ladder that allows us to climb great heights and usher the Filipino youth upwards," unquote. Let this final report be the map. Let the National Education and Workforce Development Plan be our compass. Let our collective political will be the engine that drives this nation forward. The turning point indeed is here. The future can be bright, and the best days of Philippine education are ahead of us, so long as we respond with urgency, discipline, and unity. I therefore proudly submit, together with my esteemed colleagues, the EDCOM 2 final report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. And also, Senator Mark Villar would like to put his manifestation or insert into the records his manifestation on the EDCOM 2 report.
All right, so inserted into the records.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'd just like to put on record my elation I found in page 441 of the report, of the committee report of EDCOM, that they had highlighted the municipality of ours in Bukidnon, Manolo Fortich, under Joman Alba and Mayor Quino, very progressive leaders. They're highlighting the example on how LGU-led investments in nutrition governance can produce significant improvements in child health, Mr. President. So we're doing
Very good.
been a feeding program with the children there,
Yes.
and it's been very successful. Together with Del Monte Foundation, I believe, has been supporting them as well as the LGUs. So it shows that every little bit helps. Everyone can help, Mr. President. And I just want to just manifest this short message of mine, Mr. President, for the record. Today I read, unfortunately, I think it was a Facebook story, wherein the grade 7, I think it was one of the recommendations of EDCOM, were saying that the grade 7 levels of reading are not actually being done by grade 7. It's like the grade 7 students, Mr. President, are like grade 5 levels when it comes to reading and comprehension. A lot of that has to do, my dear colleagues, with social media. I just watched the news last night. France is going to start, Mr. President, a ban on social media on children below 16 years old. England is about to do the same, United Kingdom. Also, Australia has already done it. I believe France is also going to do it. Mr. President mentioned France earlier. So there are several countries that want to do it, Mr. President. Maybe it's time to study that option, that we should also ban, because I notice even with my youngest son, Mr. President, the argument every night with my wife is trying to sit him down to read the books that he's supposed to read, the novels that he's supposed to read for his English classes. And it is so difficult for them to sit down in one corner to even just read these books that we used to read, Mr. President, when we were younger. Now everything is 30 seconds. Everything in social media is 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. So we're going to have a generation, Mr. President, the next generation, Generation Alpha, who will not be able to concentrate and be able to solve problems because they just want quick fixes, all quick fixes, Mr. President. Something that we should study further in this chamber. Maybe we could lead on that, Mr. President. I believe these first world countries are doing something right with this ban on social media on children, Mr. President. So I'd like to congratulate EDCOM too on their final report and say a job well done, Mr. President. Therefore, with that, I move that we suspend session for a few minutes to have a photo opportunity with these men and women of EDCOM 2 who really worked hard, all the stakeholders who worked hard to make this happen. And maybe a prayer, Mr. President, a prayer that government will actually follow through with all these wonderful recommendations, comprehensive recommendations made by the committee. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, we will do so. Again, congratulations. And the session is suspended for 1 Senate minute.